So, I know it's been a while, but I thought I booked the shift for tonight, but as soon as I walked in, the lady, she's familiar with me. She was like, "I don't see your name." And then I said, "Well, dog, let me make sure I'm not scheduled for any other hospital." But anyway, I told her God do things for a reason. And I remember that there was something that pressed upon my heart, and I just, I said, "God, if you just allot me some time between this little baby I got, family, and all this chaoticness, I will speak about that experience because maybe somebody needs to hear it." So the story I'm going to share with you guys alludes to a time when I was kind of midway through my ICU career. And I had a patient. She had to be in her 80s. And she was diagnosed with blood clots to her lungs. And they call them PEs for short. Or the other name is pulmonary embolisms. Now, this older lady, hold on, let me get some more light here. I gotta figure this stuff out. So this lady here, she came during the day shift, and I was coming in all night, and the nurses explained to me, yeah, she has what you call saddle PEs, which means it's right at the bottom of the lungs, and that's where the let me see if I can simplify this better. That's where the blood actually collects the oxygen needed for the rest of the body to send it about. Okay, so the heart and the lungs, everything's connected. In a nutshell, when you see a picture like that, it's usually not good. It is not good. Saddle PEs, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a very, very, very low risk, low chance of survival, even you just making it to the hospital. So obviously she came because she was progressively getting weak. She was becoming shortness of breath. And so I believe the family brought her in. And then they did all kind of scans, and that's when they discovered she had saddle PE. So it's not just one little tiny clot, it's just covering the whole of the bottom of the lungs particularly. And just think of it as like a highway clogged up. Nothing can come, nothing can go, nothing can be transported if the trucks are on the highway. So it can't transport oxygen and things like that. So let's just stick to the oxygen component of it, right? When the nurse switched off with me, she said, I'm expecting to go in the room and see this lady on the whole life support picture and, halfway coming home to Jesus. That's what I was expecting, right? But I walk in there and she has a little nasal cannula. That's a little oxygen in the nose. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm not going to lie. It kind of had me on eggshells while we writing reporting. But as the nurse is explaining to me about her day, what happened, what they're doing for her treatment, it kind of settled me a little better. But I'm like, this never happens, especially when they are older. And so I introduced myself, and she was a sweet old lady. She was like, "Hi, baby," little old Southern lady. And I took report and headed out and to check on my next patient, switched off with them. And then I received a call. It was her daughter. Her daughter actually called, and she introduced herself, and she said, "Hi, my name is," let's call her May. This story is so long ago, but let's call her May either way. And she said, "My mom, she's really stubborn. The doctors want to do this procedure or do that procedure, and she just doesn't want to do it. And I was like, yeah, I get it. And one thing they taught us in healthcare was, if a person, hold on, let me get this message. If a person is coherent, they don't have a power of attorney, proxy, and things like that, they can make decisions. So let me back up. I always make sure with a patient's okay to talk to that family member if I don't see their name in the chart. And then I also like give the family or whoever's calling in a warning that, I have to get the okay from that person. So I did that. And she said it was okay to give her full access to everything that's going on and answer all her questions. So back to her, she just explained like all her worry, and she just was like, I just don't know what to do. My siblings and my brothers and sisters, we were talking about it, and she just won't get it. She just won't do it. So I was like, well, she does have that right to make that decision. Like, there's not much we can do, like if she chooses not to do the procedure. And she said, yeah, but is there anything we can do? Like, can we like sign for her or things like that? I said, you mean like Baker Act? Like Baker Act, like hold her against her, will when it comes to the, her care. And, I explained to her what a Baker Act is, in the sense that she's in her right mind. And the other side of it too is, you have a right as a patient to, deny or accept any medications, procedures, anything. So she went on to talk about, she just let out a deep breath. She sighed and realized like there was no other way possible to forcibly make her mom go through with the procedure. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a control freak issue. It was just fear. It was 100% fear, of course, because no one wants to lose their mom. I could tell she really loved her mom and she wanted the best for her. But I explained to her, listen, I've been doing this nursing thing for a while, and I'm just gonna tell you, from what I see, that's not a normal picture. She's actually, what I usually see, some people don't even make it to the hospital, if you know what I mean. And at that, the amount of oxygen and the type of oxygen she's using, I've never seen that before. Now, I kind of beat around the bush because I did have some time to kind of speak over things with the patient before I left, and the nurse did kind of share her conversations with her as well, and I found out that she was a Christian, and so she was holding on for her dear faith that God was gonna heal her, bring her through. And let me tell you, I agree, and I know I'm not supposed to say this, but when you see it itself, if you seen what I seen with this condition, she's not supposed to be here. She's not supposed to be. But I learned in my nursing career to, especially working in the trauma field, it's some situations that are so touch and go, and it follows this progression to where it's like, oh, this don't look good. I don't know if they're gonna make it out of here. And God showed me something different. They walk out of there, all 10 toes, 10 fingers, and they walk out of there. And I'm like, wow. And then I seen some, it's like, easy case, all they need is this, that. They moving in the right direction, and then they don't make it. So no man knows the day or the hour, like when it comes to our life, like we just don't know. But seeing that old lady's faith really, really strengthened mine. And I just kind of beat around the bush because in the healthcare field, they warn us through nursing school, even when you become part of staff, that you don't talk about religion or politics. And that's fair. Everybody's different. You don't want people to feel that you are treating them a certain way because they're a different religion or voted a different person. And I agree with that. But I told the daughter, I said, look, she said, I know she's holding on to that God thing, but she can't, and she can't do that, and she got to try to this and that and the other. And I'm like, well, I say, let me tell you something. And I just kept repeating it. And I shared the story of a family member I had who was 3 times younger than her, who had saddle PE, and she went instantly. She made it to the hospital like in and out of conscious, but she left small kids behind. Youngest was like 8 at the time, I think. And I said, this is a miracle. And I just kept trying to hint to her. So I had no issues through the night. She was fine. She was able to do turns, and she slept pretty well, and her oxygen levels were great. They were great. They were great throughout the night. I did not have to increase it. And it's so funny. I probably could have, I can't remember if I tried to take it off, but usually I won't try to take it off as long as I know you have that. It's just something to give your body a little extra help. But I even seen people with lung problems, and then I would slowly to try to take the oxygen off, and then the oxygen levels still are fine. But you don't want the heart and everything struggling to try to get that extra oxygen. So sometimes it's appropriate that we just leave it on. And so the night, nothing without incidents happened. And the daughter called me the following morning. And she said, I thought about it last night. And, this is God. This is God. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay, amen, amen, amen. And I told her, I said, I didn't want to say this, but I said, your mom's faith inspired me. It inspired me. And so I go to say this. You never know how your walk, how your testimony influences others. I'm going to say, don't try this at home, but something in her, something in that particular situation made her deny that treatment. Maybe she saw something. Maybe God showed her something beforehand having that treatment that, maybe it wouldn't have ended well, because a lot of surgeons won't touch people over a certain age. It's just too much of a risk. So they won't even touch you. But I think in her case, I think she was like a candidate. But in a nutshell, I remember she just was like, no, I'm fine. And she had this peace over her. Let me tell you, she had this peace over her. She wasn't scared. She wasn't worried. She wasn't like, what about this? What about that? And I don't think she rejected the idea that it was part of the treatment plan. It's just that her faith was more so directed towards, nah, I'm fine. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen the other side of that. But there was a peace in her stance. There was a peace in her answer. So, let me know what y'all think. I would love to hear anybody else's story who had moments like that, It's inspiring. It'll help others. So, can't wait to hear y'all comments. Y'all have a good night. Bye.